Alrighty. Well, it's funny. I'm just going to bring this up because it's something I have been thinking about a bit, and a commentator on the channel made a good point, and so I'm going to bring this up anyway because it is something I've been thinking about, and the comment she made kind of helped me to get my thoughts together in such a way that I think I can lay out what my own theory on the thing is. This is just my theory as to what's happening. I think there's basis to it. It wouldn't be my theory if I didn't, but I could be wrong. I'll acknowledge I could be wrong. But what this lady mentioned was about how with Walmart, no, stores, retail stores. She didn't say Walmart. She said retail locations. That you see a lot of East Indians and people like that there now in these retail locations. A lot of foreign people. And there is a reason for that, as she said. She said there's a reason for it. And she went on to say that about how the government is subsidizing the wages and stuff like that for these people. And I'm going to tell you why I think that is. I've noticed that in Smiths Falls here, our local Walmart is looking more and more like Calcutta, India every day. More and more people, brown skin, turbans, they speak with an accent. Now, like I say, on a personal level, I have no problem with these people. These are hardworking people. They do their job. Walmart is not known to be the easiest company to work for. But those people, they go in there and every day and they do their jobs. And so, hats off to them for that, I guess. I'm not wearing a hat, so I'll do this here over my bald head. This is me taking my hat off to them. But here's the thing. What they are is a replacement population. As I've said in previous videos, the globalists want to eliminate up to 95% of us. 95% is the goal, and they want to do this by the year 2030. I don't see how they're going to do it without a cull. They're going to have to be like a mass culling of the population. And I believe that's why they're making it harder for us to live. But the thing is, they want to keep 5% of us around. Why do they want to do that? Well, they want to do that because they want 5% of the population of peons, of serfs, basically of slaves. They want 5% of the population to fill that role, to be slaves, basically. Because there's always going to be certain things that need to be done that they don't want to do. Somebody's got to go in the backyard and pick up the dog shit. Somebody's got to go down that ladder into the sewer with a pitchfork and clear out that blockage, or whatever. There's always going to be people who have to do these things. Somebody's going to have to climb up the pole, during a freezing rainstorm in January and get the power going again, or whatever. Somebody's going to have to wash the dishes. Somebody's going to have to mop the floors and clean the toilets and all that. Wipe your toothpaste stains out of your sink and your shit stains out of your toilet. Somebody's going to have to launder your clothing and your bedding and make your beds up and all that. Somebody's going to have to fix your car. All that stuff. Somebody's going to have to muck out your stables if you have horses and so on. Rich people seem to like horses. A lot of them do. So the bottom line is this. They need to keep a certain slave class around to do that. Now, white people, like me, don't make good slaves. White people who were born in North America don't make good slaves. And the reason for that is we were not brought up to be slaves. We were brought up, like people my age, we were told when we were growing up, you can do better than your parents did. you can have a better life than the life that you're living now. You can have a better life than your parents are living. It's all within your reach as long as you work for it and you don't give up, you'll get it. Now, it turned out a lot of that was lies because, of course, they kept raising the bar higher and higher. You know, your parents could work at the grocery store and buy a house. You can't do that now. You know, you can't. I mean, your parents could. Your dad could be the guy that pushes the groceries out back when they still did that, loads all the groceries into a big wheeled cart and pushes it out to your car and puts the stuff in your car, and he could buy a house. And he could not only buy a house, he could buy a car too, and he could send you to college. That ain't happening anymore. You know, the bar has been raised too high for that. But here's the thing. See, we were conditioned to think we could do better. And we were also taught that we have certain rights. And, you know, I mean, let's face it, we grew up with trade unionism. We grew up being taught that if you're accused of a crime, you have a right not to speak with the police. You have a right to take the case to trial and force the prosecution to prove the case against you. You have a right to confront your accuser in court, and so on, you know. And we were taught that we have a right to safe working conditions and to earn a living wage. We were taught we had these rights. Now, in practice, you often don't have those rights. And you'll find that out when you get into the real world, that the rights that you were taught you have, you don't actually have the way you thought you had them. But still, by the time we grew up, we were in that mindset where even though life taught us that no, you know, if you're working in a place and the boss says, crawl down that hole there and grab that live electrical wire and drag it up out of there or whatever. If you refuse to do it, he's going to say, you're out of here. Leave. I will get somebody in who will do it. And you're not going to have a leg to stand on. You can try to fight it. You're not going to win. You know, if the police officer hauls you out of your car by your throat and beats you half to death on the side of the road for no apparent reason, not because you're resisting or anything, but just because he's a bully and he likes to do that or whatever, and then he turns around and charges you for assaulting him, even though you didn't even lift a hand to protect yourself when he was beating you, you're going to jail. That is going to happen. You're not going to win. You're going to go to jail. Because what will happen is he'll get a bunch of his cop buddies, even cops who weren't there when it happened. There mightn't have been another cop around for miles. But what'll happen is in court, you'll get 6 cops saying, oh yeah, I was there and I saw what happened, and that guy come out of the car and took a swing at officer so-and-so, and yeah, this is what they'll say, you know. Said, I'm going to kick your ass, peg, and then, you know, and stuff like that. It won't have happened. But now it's your word, and you're now an accused criminal, so you automatically have less credibility against the word, you know, of 6 or 8 cops. That's what you're going to be dealing with. And so you really don't have the rights you think you have in practice. But we are still conditioned. There's still that mental conditioning that has taken place that causes us to feel like we have those rights, even though we don't. And so we become kind of belligerent about it when we think people are trying to take our rights. And so, you see, the elites, they don't want to deal with that. So what they're doing is they're bringing people in from India or wherever, from places where the people are used to living in abject poverty, where the people are used to doing dirty, dangerous work for hardly any money, where the people are used to, you know, the policeman can just take a hold of you and do what he wants to you, and you can't do anything about it, and if the policeman says you're guilty, then they'll drag you out to the public square and they'll hang you by your neck until you're dead in front of everybody, so that, and the policeman will be right even if he's wrong, and they're used to that. They're used to being owned by other people. They're used to being slaves. Now, the ironic thing is they come here because they think they're going to have a better life. They think they're going to get away from that. But the purpose of them being brought here is, in fact, for that to come here. So it isn't for them to run away from that, which is what they believe they're doing. It's for them to bring it here. It's for them to continue to live the life they lived in India, but instead of living that life in Delhi or Calcutta or Mumbai, you're going to live that life in Toronto or Ottawa, or Vancouver or Montreal or wherever, and that's what it is. And the same is true in the United States. The population, it's a replacement population. That's the reason that Joe Biden threw the border wide open and basically said, come on in. Now, technically, those people are illegals because the process hadn't changed. You were still supposed to go through the process. And what the Biden administration did was actually criminal. It was illegal. They completely ignored the law when they threw the borders open like they did. Our government, the Trudeau government, has done the same thing. They've threw the borders open in defiance of the law of the land. And so what's happened is we've had this flood now of people from these other countries. And see, there's a twofold thing here, because some of those people are intended to become the slave class here, and they'll be more receptive to being the slave class because they've never known anything else, and they have never had any other expectation put in their mind. They grew up being told, basically, keep your head down and do your work, and no, you don't have rights. Like, get that out of your head. If you think you have rights, no, you don't. And you'll soon find that out if you try exercising. You just try flexing on your rights and see where that'll get you around here. Remember your Uncle Rajid? You haven't seen your Uncle Rajid since you were 7 years old, eh? Guess why that is? Guess where Rajid is right now? There's a reason that he hasn't been around for dinner, since you were 7. He thought he was going to flex his rights that he doesn't have. So that's the thing, so that's the population they're bringing in. Plus, the other thing that these third world countries are doing is they're emptying their prisons and their mental asylums into North American countries with the blessing of the North American governments. And the reason they're doing that is to destabilize North American society, so that we have a sudden increase in crime and in weird things happening, basically. So we have all these strange people coming in, and doing strange things and doing criminal things. And what happens then is it gives the authorities an excuse to enact more repressive laws. Because they can say, well, look, little kids are being taken off the street and stuff, Women aren't safe to walk down the street. They get tackled and raped and everything else. So we have to have these laws in place here to protect you people, to protect the people of the country, because we have all these criminals here now and all these crazy people. All people they invited in, and they did it for that purpose, to cause fear and to destabilize society. And to get people to agree to lose more of their freedoms in the name of safety. And so there's a twofold purpose. Some of them are intended to be the new slave class, to replace the rest of us. And some of them are intended just to come in and basically raise hell and destabilize the country and stretch the country's resources, you know. Keep the country's police chasing them. Keep the prisons and the mental institutions full of them. You know, be a story on the 6 o'clock news every night to convince people that we're living in an unsafe and a perilous place and an unsafe and a perilous time, and we need to give the government more authority over all of us so that they can crack down on those who are doing horrible things, you know. And so that's another reason for it too. And so, of course, these countries over there are more than happy to open the doors to their prisons and their nut houses and to let all those people come over here because they're no longer a liability. These are countries where their resources are already stretched to the limit. These are third world countries. You know, so having to run, you know, if they can close down some prisons, that saves them some money. If they can close down some nut houses, that saves them some money too. And so this is what they're doing. They're releasing all these people on the condition that they immigrate and come over either to Canada or the United States. And then when they get here, you know, a lot of these people are hardcore criminals. And that's all they've known. That's all they've ever known. A lot of them come from a family dynasty of criminality. And so they get over here, and what are they going to do? They're going to do what they know, just like everybody does. You know, like it or not, we do what we know. And if what you know is crime, then for the most part, that's what you're going to do. And of course, if you're somebody who has serious mental illness and you're not getting any proper care or whatever for it, then again, when you come over here, you're bringing that with you, you know, and so you're going to be acting in different ways when you're here. And the thing is, a lot of these people too, they went into the institutions in their home country because they had serious mental illness. So they were placed in these institutions, and then they got no care in those institutions. In fact, what they got was abuse. They were locked up and they were abused. And so now they're traumatized. On top of whatever mental illness brought those poor unfortunate souls to that place, on top of that, they've been traumatized. And so now you got people suffering from PTSD on top of whatever else is going on with them that's not been treated properly, being released into North American society. Now, those people are true victims, and I'm not saying any of this to knock them. It's not their fault. It's not their fault, those people. But they don't belong here, and they were put here for a detrimental reason. And, you know, the same with the criminals. The criminals, well, yeah, in a way it is their fault, although you got to bear in mind most of them are coming from situations where being a criminal was the only way you were going to survive. If you weren't a criminal, you didn't eat. And so, as a result, and they come from a long family line, a lot of them do, with criminals, where that's all they ever knew. It's what they grew up with. So just like we grew up with the idea that if you work hard and you apply yourself and you're halfway smart and you follow the rules, you'll get ahead. Like I say, a lot of that has turned out to be lies, but that is what we were taught. They were taught, cut the other guy's throat before he cuts your throat. If you don't have a sandwich and the other guy has a sandwich, take his sandwich off him, and then you will have a sandwich. You know, that's what they were taught. You know, then he'll go hungry and you'll eat. You know, better he go hungry than you go hungry. Take his sandwich if you can. You know, what have you got to lose? You're going to starve to death if you don't. And so that's the mentality they bring here, because that's the way they've been conditioned. And in a way, they're victims too. But they don't belong here. And the fact of the matter is, any way you look at it, even though in a way they are victims, they're still hardened criminals. And a lot of these people are hardened criminals that would make even our worst criminals look pretty good. You know, the worst criminals that you generally see in North America at least are sort of civilized. That can't be said about third world hardened criminals. They're an entirely different breed because, of course, they grow up and live in a much harder world, much harder society. A hard society will produce a hard man. And if you're a hard man who's a criminal, well, it stands to reason you're going to be a worse criminal than say, a softer criminal who was produced by a softer society. So their hardened criminals are hard on a whole different level. They're hardened on a completely different level than our hardened criminals. And so, like I say, at least in a way, at least in part, they are victims as well. But they don't belong here. They've been brought here for a nefarious purpose, and they are still criminals. Like it or not, they are still criminals, and we don't want them. But see, the elites want them because they sow disorder. They sow chaos. Out of chaos, order. That is an Illuminati thing. Order from chaos. The New World Order. You see, they're getting order out of chaos. Well, in order to get chaos, you got to create it. Chaos is a created thing. The truth is, the way God built the world and the way he built the universe and the world are actually very ordered. God is a very orderly God. And the way he made things, everything is very ordered. Chaos is of the devil. And any place where the devil has a foothold, you will get chaos. And unfortunately, in those third world countries, the devil has a very firm foothold. And he's getting more and more of a foothold here, too. But anyway, the bottom line is, some people are being brought over to be the new slave class, and a lot of them will be allowed to continue living as long as they're of some value. When they're no longer able to work, they'll be put to death. But then their children will replace them. This is the goal of the globalist. Now, the criminals and the mental patients, once they have served their purpose, they will also be put to death. Once they've sowed enough chaos that they've convinced the people that they need to give up all of their human rights for an illusion of safety, then they will also be put to death because they'll be of no use. And the thing is, these globalists, they have no loyalty. It doesn't matter how well you serve a loyalist. It doesn't matter how loyally you serve a globalist. A globalist will not show you any loyalty at all. You're only of use as long as you're of use, and when you're no longer of use, you're no longer around. That's how a globalist operates. And so, like I say, those people are serving a purpose right now for the globalist. And once they've served that purpose, they'll be eliminated. Anyway, that's the background. That's why all this is happening. There's another angle to it, too, that's been speculated about, and I think there could be some truth in it. A lot of these people are military-age men, especially the ones coming from China. I have to wonder, and I know others have wondered this, too. Part of the goal could be to have a standing army, to deal with dissenters like myself when the time comes, to have a standing army in place. Because the thing is, the regular army, that looks like me, basically, full of white guys and stuff, that army, they're going to have a loyalty to their own, and so that will be an issue for the globalists. There's going to, if they're asked to come in and bust the heads of people like me, who they know are actually fighting for freedom, then what's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of dissent, you're going to get a lot of insubordination, you're going to get a lot of refusal to obey orders, and that's going to be an issue. But if they have a standing army of Chinese soldiers who have no loyalty to anybody who looks like me, and who don't even understand the concept of human rights and freedom because they've never known of such a thing in their own experience. They may have heard of it, but it's just an abstract concept to them at best. It's far easier to get them to bust a guy like me in the head and haul a guy like me off to a concentration camp than it will be to get a guy like me to bust a guy like me in the head and haul me off to a concentration camp, So there is that too, and I do think that theory has some traction. I do think there's some truth in that. Anyway, that's it. I'm now up to 26 minutes, so I guess we'll see you later. But first, the patented Rocky Cam. I'm not sure what you can see right now, but there's Rocky. He's having a good sleep there. There he is. This is the patented Rocky Cam. Holy crap, there's a lot of blood on this bed. His leg bleeds, Anyway, that's it. It's that damn snake bite from back 2 or 3 years ago. All right, we'll see you later. There he is. Look at him. The patented Rocky Cam woke him up. Trademark rig. Patented Rocky Cam, trademark rig. Trademark registered. We'll see you later.